Hi, I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and welcome to How to Stop Negative Thinking in 7 Simple Steps. Use these anti-negativity thinking tips to get your mental house in order. So I thought you'd be pleased, I really did, but negative thinking can darken a cloudless day, bring down an uplifting event and dampen a simple pleasure. So this guy had won a lot of money and had been pleased for a while, but now all Keith could say was, yeah, but now I have the added problem of whether to tell my friends or not. And if I don't tell them and they find out, it's bad. And if I do tell them, they'll all expect me to share some of my money with them. So I suggested it wasn't a problem, but merely a consideration, that all in all, he might as well be over the moon about winning the money. Yeah, but I'm torn between paying off the mortgage and buying a Porsche. Now this to him had become a problem, which he resented. Resisting the urge to throttle him or ask for money, I got thinking about the true nature of negativity. As someone once said, life's problems reveal who we really are. And that's true. Negative thinkers can, but when things are going great, they can do that. Everything becomes a but. On the other hand, the more resilient or positive thinkers can remain upbeat when times are tough. So I sat and looked at Keith, and he was a young man with intelligence, which was not best serving him, looks and now money, and still he saw the old water jar as half empty. And I've known people close to death with more zest and positivity. So negative thinking can become a habit of mind picked up from other people. We can learn to be negative. Negativity can be infectious, or it can be little more than a failure of courage, because sometimes it actually takes guts to remain positive through setbacks. Not that I considered winning money a setback. So I looked at him thinking, and he looked at me, probably wondering what I was looking at, and actually I suppose negative thinking seems to have its advantages. That's what I was thinking. It's the devil you know. If you're used to negative thinking, it becomes familiar. Thinking the worst, expecting failure and betrayal, seeing downsides where others don't, even seeing positives as negatives, all convey a kind of insurance policy. If I expect the worst, then I won't be disappointed when it happens. Another advantage to negative thinking, or seeming advantage, is the I told you so syndrome. For some people, it can feel more important to be proved right in their negative predictions and to have good things actually happen and therefore be proved wrong. So before I get too positive about negativity, here's a thought. The habit of thinking negatively doesn't just predict how likely someone is to become depressed, but also predicts how likely they are to suffer all kinds of other illnesses later on in life, including physical illnesses. So check out reference 1. Now, I'm not suggesting that negative thoughts alone produce illness, but they don't help and they can exacerbate stress, which we know dampens the immune response. So we're going to look at what you can do to stop negative thinking. But first, let's examine a common fundamental mistake the pessimism-prone tend to make. The most common negative thinking mistake. So Keith was proud to describe himself as a realist. This is a word he used repeatedly. And of course, anyone who strongly holds a belief think that they're being realistic in holding that belief, and whether it involves green men from Mars or honest politicians. So the more realistic proclamation is a favourite of cynics everywhere, and in a way they're right, but only because thinking negatively causes us not to try, or if we do try, to give up sooner. So the negativity itself influences results. So in a sense it is realistic. Self-fulfilling prophecies really do happen. And researchers even found that what we believe about our health can have more bearing on how long we live than our actual health. See reference 2. So that's a staggering thought. So negative thoughts can plague us even when things seem to be going well. It's too good to last. Okay. My first tip has to do with how negative thinking distorts perception. So number 1, stop thinking in extremes. Most of life isn't black or white, or completely this or completely that, or all or nothing. But negative thinking tends to view bad stuff in the extreme. For example, rather than not doing as well as I'd like to do in my test, I'm going to fail completely. Instead of my business venture taking a while to get going, it's going to crash and burn, leaving me ruined. Rather than just feeling a few nerves during my speech, I'm going to die out there. They're all going to hate me. It's an absolutist, extremist way of looking at life. All or nothing thinking misses out the subtle shades in life. It makes us see the future in terms of dramatic disasters, failures and catastrophes. And sure, disasters occasionally do happen, but contrary to the shrill pronouncements from newsstands or online news outlets, most of life consists of shades of grey. So the first step to overcoming negative thinking isn't to just be positive all of a sudden, but to look for shades of grey, for subtlety. So say you've been worrying about a relationship, rather than thinking it's going to be a disaster, I just know it is, or even it's going to be perfect, two extremist views. How about I expect there will be great bits, good bits, and not so good bits, like any relationship. So write down what you have been thinking negatively about, and then write the extreme negative statements that come to mind. Now write 3 middle-of-the-road possibilities. Not so exciting or terrifying, but a more realistic, nuanced take on what's actually more likely to happen. Giving your brain more options will reduce emotionality and allow you to think more clearly. Number 2, stop overgeneralizing the negative. So ask yourself, if something bad happens, do I tend to overgeneralize it? Do I view it as applying to everything and being permanent rather than containing it to one place and time? For example, if someone turns you down for a date, do you spread the negativity beyond that particular person and particular time and place by telling yourself, nothing ever works out for me? If you fail a test, do you say to yourself, well, I failed that test, I'm not happy about that, but I'll try harder next time? Do you keep it specific? Or do you overgeneralize it by telling yourself you're stupid or you can't learn anything or nothing ever works? And while we're on the subject, don't minimize the positive. Negative thinking stops people seeing the positive when it does happen, or they twist it and reframe it in their mind. So it's as if there's a screen filtering out positives and just letting in stuff that confirms the negative bias or the negative propaganda. Magnifying setbacks and minimizing successes leads to demotivation and misery. Get into the habit of seeing setbacks as temporary and specific rather than as permanent and pervasive or all-encompassing. We all tend to find what we look for. If you find yourself thinking negative thoughts about a person, for instance, get into the habit of balancing it out with more positive thoughts about them, or just one positive thought about them. So, he's so insincere. Mind you, to be fair, he was helpful with that project and he can be very funny. Okay, so the positive is there, but you have to look for it. Okay. Number 4, stop mind reading. Thinking negatively stops us relaxing with uncertainty. This can lead to mind reading. She hasn't texted me back, she doesn't like me anymore. Or he only said that to make me feel better. He doesn't really think I did well in that situation. Having to assign a meaning to something before you've got real evidence makes you more likely to believe what you imagine without question. Holding off assigning, or made up, meaning to an ambiguous situation is a key part of overcoming negative thinking. Just not knowing and relaxing with not knowing for a while. When you become more positive or just more comfortably neutral, you'll be doing more of, I don't know why she hasn't texted me back yet. Okay, and just relaxing more of that. You'll also be able to consider all possible reasons you can think of, not just the negative ones. So here are a few to help you out as an example. So she hasn't texted me back. Maybe she's forgotten her phone, or the phone's battery is dead, or she's run out of phone credits, or she's in a lecture, or she's on a plane, or she's out of range. Okay, or she's just forgotten. You get the drift. None of these are attributable to you and your likability, and all are as plausible as any other explanation. Number 5, stop taking all the responsibility. If I put it down to other people or luck when something is good, okay, so it's nothing to do with me, or works out, and don't take any credit myself, even if the success was largely down to me, then I'm externalizing the positive. Or I might externalize the quality of goodness from my friend when he does something kind by telling myself he only did that to win favors. Okay, so if you or someone else do something good or well, just accept it. It's a time to internalize something. Negative thinkers also tend to do the opposite. They'll internalize, that is, blame themselves for all kinds of negatives that have little or nothing at all to do with them. So look at how much control and influence you really have over things that you tend to think negatively about. Okay. Number 6, stop forcing your own rules on life. Okay, so you hear things like, if he loved me, he wouldn't do that. Okay, or that just shows he doesn't love me. If I was a good mother, I wouldn't lose my temper. People shouldn't act like that. If I can't do this, then I must be really stupid. He was late, he must be seeing someone else. Saying that means he doesn't respect me. My medical tests haven't come back, and that means it's bad news. Sometimes known as masturbation, making up tight rules as to how reality must or should be is a surefire way of feeling let down by yourself and other people, and life in general. This isn't to say that we shouldn't expect anything from ourselves or others, but rather that the rules need not be unreasonably inflexible. If you feel disappointed or let down, then you must have been expecting something else. Okay. Examine what it was that you were expecting and ask yourself, was my expectation too narrow and rigid? Number 7, stop making stuff up and believing it. Imagination is a wonderful thing, a wonderful tool, but not if you use it to scare yourself. Sometimes we need to be able to suspend the functioning of the imagination, to quote Ernest Hemingway, no less. So looking at an upcoming event in your mind and negatively hypnotizing yourself by vividly imagining the worst is like using a hammer to paint a picture. It's a wrong use of the imagination. Your imagination is there as a tool to be used constructively. By practicing imagining things going well, or at least you being calm in them, making it more likely you'll be calmer in the situation will be a much better use of your imagination and your time. If you still have wildly negative thoughts, then at least dilute them by imagining a positive outcome as well as the negative one. If you imagine forgetting what to say in an upcoming presentation, immediately disregard that and instead imagine it going well. Stopping negative thinking takes time and effort, and to an extent, it's a job that's never done. It's a habit that you get into. Practicing using these 7 tips will serve you really well for the rest of your life. Isn't it worth spending a little time on them? So despite his negativity, Keith, who's a friend of mine, or is a friend of mine, recognizes his own negative leanings and actually said he found these tips really useful. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and if you want to hear when my next video is published, hit the notification bell below. I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and if you'd like to try some of my personal development products, head over to hypnosisdownloads.com and take a look around. And thanks for watching.